can leave any of your stuff you want to leave in the bus. They're completely safe. That's one thing. The other thing is we have bottles of mineral water for you. Also the whole day long to use in the fridge in the bus. So please don't forget to take a bottle of water from the bus. It will help you because of the dehydration of the body happening because of the heat. We are going to spend around 1 hour 20 minutes here in the site of Saqqara or the State Pyramid. To use the toilets, you need to have some little denomination between 10 to 20 Egyptian pounds. If you don't have Egyptian pounds and you have $1, for example, give the man $1 and ask him for the change. How much is $1 to the Egyptian pounds? It is $1 is 48 to 49 Egyptian pounds. Adi can take your no problem.
I'm just gonna grab my hat.
Guys, look on the right hand side.
Stretch your leg. You're so thin. It's good.
Yeah.
I'll go get your hat.
Nancy.
Please come. Popol Saqqara.
يا ريس سيبها بالله عليك خلينا نخلص.
حاضر يا باشا.
بعدين لو سمحت.
حاضر يا باشا.
بعدين. For the first time ever in the history of our architecture, the ancient Egyptians start using only stone was here, and this was 4,700 years ago. And they faced a dilemma while constructing this complex simply because the original material coming from the countrysides represented the idea of life, while limestone used now coming from the desert represents the idea of death. And the ancient Egyptians loved life very much and they hated death very much. This is why when they decided to use limestone, they thought we can reach a compromise. Limestone is durable, it lasts longer, it's very strong, but it represents death. Why don't we cut the limestone, which represents death, in the form of the original material represented life coming from the countrysides? And this is why they use columns taking the shape of papyrus, although the columns are not papyrus, they are made out of stone. The whole funerary complex had around the step pyramid a huge massive wall. You see the remains of the wall in front, but the rest of the walls are lost. The original wall was 545 meters long, 277 meters wide. But the complex stones were recycled many times for other constructions by later kings. We are now going to do the only house gate, although the whole wall is covered, you have to three gates, but the wall was really good. We are talking again, 4,700 years, first trial ever. In the tomb site. He developed after the form of the real pyramid as a complete index. Look above. Design interlock one with another. And this is one of the earliest examples in the world for interlocking the stone device.
Look, check out there seems to be like a little block in between each one. See that? Standing up? Yeah. Like facing the other. That's probably what holds them together.
The ceiling, because the ceiling is made of stone, but it is redid in design to look like the trunks of the trees used before.
So we're not going to the big things. We have to.
Were you listening? You would have.
Yeah, you repeated it like 4 times.
Mom's making sure.
Kenny, you take the pictures.
保护的，还有跟在底下呢，现在也有一些的那个有化石的，但是都有地方的。To take one forward, she's like. No. Di qualche c'era
Larissa!
Baby puppies.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a wall, a gate, and a narrow corridor started by columns. See the columns? It gives an impression. You are going into a palace. You're going into a tomb complex. Why did they decide to make the tomb complex to look like the design of a palace? Please go into the compartments on the sides to give free passage in the corridor. Why did they decide to give the impression, the deliberate impression that this is a palace? Because they thought that this is a tomb, but the tomb for the king will be a palace, but a palace for the afterlife. So it was made on the same imitation of the real palace in the city of Memphis, in the capital itself, but it was even more impressive, and here the king exercised his power. When we examine the place from the architecture point of view, we discover, when counting the columns, that we have here 21 columns on the side and 21 columns on the other side. We didn't know the significance of the number 42, but trying to investigate that in history, we discovered that Egypt at the time was administratively divided into 42 local provinces. And when we found in these little compartments the remains of the statues representing the local deities of each one of the local provinces, this ensured us that this was made to represent the whole land of Egypt, the land of the south and the land of the north, and having the two of them together was a trial to show the unity between the north and the south under the firm grip of the very strong political rule of the Egyptian king. Ladies and gentlemen, we examined each one of the columns separately to discover that each one of the column was not made from one single rock or stone. It is made from small pieces put one on the top of the other. And when we looked at the design, it looked exactly the same, like the original papyrus bundles put together in such a big size to support originally the roof made of wood. So this is an imitation, but in stone. Examining each column, we discover that each column is not standing free. It is attached to a wall behind. And this is because it was such an early stage of using stone alone in supporting the very heavy roof, and the architect could not trust the column alone, and this is why they are never freestanding columns. They attach them to a wall to support confidently the roof on the top. Even looking at the design of each one of these columns, we discover that the base of each column is wider slightly than the one above. So the column is wide at the base and is narrower on the top. So to put the stones design cut with such little variation of size at such an early time, we're talking 4,700 years, is not an easy job. And the ancient Egyptian architects must have had tools used for measuring the little differences. What was the main measuring tool used in ancient Egypt? It was called cubit. How big is a cubit? A cubit is the size from the middle finger to the elbow. It's now equivalent to 52.40. But each one cubit was divided into smaller units, and each one unit smaller was the size of a fist of a hand. And each one fist was even designed or divided into smaller units, which was the size of the knuckle, like a meter, a centimeter, and a millimeter. And we found even the actual cubits, and many of them are now in museums. Some of them are made in wood, some of them are made in metals, and some of them are made in stone. So let's go this way.
Before you go, can you point out what parts were original and which ones are?
Yes, that's a very good question. Actually, there was a famous French architect called Philippe Louer who spent at least 50 years of his life here trying to rebuild parts of the wall, and the darker ones are the original ones, and the lighter ones in color are the ones found close and polished and added after. And if you look at the slabs of the stone on the top, on the left, this is the origin of the ceiling, and this never it changed. They are here forever. But we added this new concrete ceiling to give people an impression how it looked like in the past. We have found one small portion of the walls around outside, and the rest were found at the base, and this is how we could tell the exact size of the original wall, 545 meters by 277 meters. On these two stone pedestals, ladies and gentlemen, we found the remains of statues representing Upper Egypt governor, Lower Egypt governor, and further closer to the gate, we found the remains of a statue for the king, represented as the king of the united land of Egypt, Upper and Lower Egypt. If you manage to unite Upper and Lower Egypt, you are then a very strong king. Or it shows how strong you are. Why did we? Guys, this is how each column out of the 42 looked like.
You know if there was other taper? So that's original.
Ladies and gentlemen, we might spread out in these 4 compartments. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's right. After you.
I think so. It was hot always, but it wasn't that humid. I don't know why.
We're from Texas, so this is about what it feels like back home. We stay inside.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, after the gate, the colonnade, we get into the court of the palace, right? What would the king do in the court of the palace? If you come to the side, it would be a better idea, a much better idea, to give rooms for everybody passing by. What would the function of the court of a palace? What would be the function of the court of any palace? For the king to exercise his power. So within the court, the king used to come at a regular base and exercise his power by fighting a bull or the lion, and by running a ritual race around to prove to everybody that he is still young, strong, fit enough to rule the country for more and more years to come. So this is a funerary purpose or a funerary structure, but it was used for political purposes, which is to prove the king is still powerful and young to rule the country more and more years to come. So the ancient Egyptians definitely used religion for political purposes. There is no doubt about that. Let's go this way.
I'm sorry. Definitely.
Bus 15 on your right.
Want to take one of those photos?
No, those are awful.
This? Or do this? And the pyramids. Mom.
Hey, watch the way you walk. You're gonna fill up your shoes with sand.
Oh, I know. Mom. Want to take one of those photos? Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, guys, excuse my broken English. Do you understand all my English?
It's perfect.
Yes.
They just got intermixed with 15 back there. So some of 15 was coming through and then
No problem. Are the Saqqara tombs here that show on Netflix?
We have a lot of tombs here.
Right.
Saqqara is the biggest necropolis ever. The most subject to excavations, and we every week discover a new tomb. So, ladies and gentlemen, what's the name of the king again?
Cheops.
Nine.
Cheops is a builder of the Great Pyramid, the only surviving wonder of the world. This is King
Djoser.
or Djoser. Excellent, thank you very much. This is King Djoser or Djoser. King Djoser, beautiful, complex, was built by a famous Egyptian known as Imhotep. So Imhotep is not a bad character in ancient Egypt. Imhotep was a gifted person was a highly talented doctor, was a great architect. Imhotep was an advisor for the king, and Imhotep, the word itself, means he who comes in peace. And we found a stela with Imhotep name written on, having a text. When we translated, we discovered it's a description to a famine that happened in Egypt, and it lasted for 7 years, and it said that Imhotep was a big asset for the Egyptian kingdom, and he helped Egypt a lot during the 7 years famine. Reading the details of the famine, we discovered the 7 years famine is very similar to the biblical famine, talking about Joseph while in Egypt, which made many scholars believe that Imhotep, he who comes in peace, is perhaps the same person who is Joseph the prophet. We are not 100% sure though. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the base of the step pyramid, especially the right hand side, you will see marks of extending the first step further right to make it bigger, which indicated building the 6 steps on different stages, not all happening at once, perhaps because they started as just one step taking the shape of a rectangular bench like all the other tombs before him, and he was the first one ever to heighten his pyramid and make it steps one above the other, which is a very important transition happening in the Egyptian architecture before reaching the architecture of a pyramid. Ladies and gentlemen, this pyramid is not only, or the complex, one of the most impressive, but also one of the most ambiguous. Why? Inside this step pyramid, at a depth of 32 meters, we found 6 kilometers passages running under the ground in the form of tunnels. How big the tunnels were again? 6 kilometers. They're running now under our feet, by the way, at a depth of 32 meters. And the walls of were even decorated by Egyptian blue fine style, looking like water, which is symbol of rebirth, and inside which we didn't find any mummies for the king. We found only the remains of a mummy arm, and we found the remains of members of the royal family. And in one of the rooms, which is room number 7, we found 40,000 jars and vases made of all different imaginable material and size. Some of them even had names for the kings before him, which made it even more ambiguous, and we don't know why he would bother bury funerary tools for his ancestors in his tomb, because these funerary tools would be in the ancestors' tombs. Investigating that in history, we discovered there was a family dispute amongst the royal figures, and they fought each other during the fight over the rule of the country. The tombs were hacked, the funerary objects were thrown away and dispersed, and the king decided to show respect to the past and to the ancestors, and this is why they could have reburied these tools in the form of the vases containing the liquids and the grain, sometimes empty, sometimes having funerary purposes, in his own tomb. If you look, ladies and gentlemen, to the corner, you see the remains of the wall inside. On the top of the corner of the wall, you will see the carvings of the cobra snakes. You see that? The cobra as a snake was worshipped in ancient Egypt. You know why? Because the Egyptian doctors made from the poison of the snake's venoms or medicine. And this is why, till today, since ancient Egypt, you find on the top, the facade of any pharmacy, a cup having a cobra snake coming from. The Egyptians even worshipped the cobra as a goddess of protection, and the king would have on the top of his head a cobra to spit poison, according to the Egyptian mythology, on the enemies the king doesn't see in the battle. We even found further left. Let's go together.
It's like a proper Egyptologist. He's not even sweating. Wearing the dress shirt.
He's used to it. It's like how Canadians can go out and get a tan leather with a t-shirt on.
We don't even get cold.
They get cold, but
That's a very good question, ladies and gentlemen, asking about mortars used in ancient Egypt. We found mortar in ancient Egypt, called the kingdom, and when we examined the mortar, we discovered the mortar was made from a mixture of the powder of limestone and the mud of the Nile in certain proportions to try to reproduce this very adhesive mortar in modern time. It is not as sticky as the original mortar made by the ancient Egyptians. Ladies and gentlemen, we found in a hole under the ground at the depth of 28 meters, which is the same depth of the burial chamber inside, we found the vessels used for keeping the internal organs after separate mummification to them. We even found the stone coffin for the king. And this is why we started to call this hole found in the south of the step pyramid the south tomb. So if this is the northern tomb for the king, this is the southern tomb for the king. During the old kingdom, each king used to have two tombs, one real tomb and one fake tomb called the cenotaph, a tomb in the north and a tomb in the south. If he comes from the south but he rules in the north, he will have to show respect to the people of the south by putting some of his buried organs within the land of the south as well, or at least make a fake tomb which is symbolic to show the king's power spreading the whole country, south and north. And ladies and gentlemen, if we go a little bit up, you can see the hole cut within the rocks, and we will go down straight afterwards.
It was really decent.
That's mine.
This is 2,700 the total price. Visit. Or visit. Anyone wants to come back to the bus with me? Follow my side.
Ja, ik kan naar de bus. Ga jij even komen zo aan, ja?
Ja. Maar mag ik een tasje? Want...
So, ladies and gentlemen, remember we talked about the bent pyramid, a trial to make a pyramid very high, then changing the angle. And after finishing, the king didn't like the shape of the bent pyramid, and he decided to make another one, learning from his mistakes and corrections. these two pyramids you see rising in the horizon, the furthest one is the bent pyramid, the one where they changed the angle. The one closer is the correction, and it lost the outside white limestone casing, and this is why today we call it the Red Pyramid. Ancient Egypt, we didn't call it the Red Pyramid because it didn't look red until Egypt. This happened only after it lost the outside white limestone casing, like all the pyramids. Guys, you see this pile of sand? Guess what this pile of sand close by is?
Filled pyramid?
This is a pyramid that lost the outside stone casing. Where did the outside stone casing went? It was recycled. This pyramid is for King Unas from the beginning of the 5th dynasty, and this is the first pyramid ever to have a pyramid text written on the wall. It's what we call today the Book of the Dead, but the ancient Egyptians never called it the Book of the Dead because the ancient Egyptians didn't consider death as an end, because for the ancient Egyptians death is but a transition from one condition to another condition, and that the tomb is but a passage from life to the afterlife. And according to the Muslim culture, if God made you once, God can make you again. And if you happen to exist once, why do you mind existing again? And we say in our Muslim culture, if you came from nothing once, you can come from something again. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, in Saqqara we found very interesting tombs. We found even mummification workshops. One of the most recent mummification workshops found here was behind this pyramid. And what we found among the materials used for mummification was herbs. And these herbs exist only in Southeast Asia, places like Malaysia, which meant for us, the ancient Egyptians must have gone that far. Amongst the objects found here was millions of skeletons of dogs. Which kind of dogs the ancient Egyptians liked? From the depictions on the walls of the tombs, the ancient Egyptians had two main dogs.
Hairless.
One of them,
Greyhounds?
you are very close. Yes,
Greyhounds.
that's right. Thank you very much. They call them Pharaoh's hounds, and we call them Ibizan. If you are familiar with the name Ibizan. Another dog we found is called today the Basenji. I don't know if you are familiar with the name Basenji for the dogs. We found even toys for the kids. Amongst the toys found was a crocodile with movable jaws. Another one is called the mechanical dog. What is the mechanical dog toy? It's a dog toy lying on a lever. If you press and then release, the dog moves. This is why they call it the mechanical dog. Amongst the most interesting objects ever found in Saqqara was known as the bird of Saqqara. Please Google it up. It's very interesting because after studying the bird of Saqqara, we discovered the dimensions of the bird, the relation between the head, the tails, and the wings are exact, same like a model for a modern aeroplane, which made a lot of people think the ancient Egyptians made the first model ever of an aeroplane, which enhances the idea of a transportation between the sky and the earth, easing the movement of the aliens who must have made the Egyptian pyramids. Let's go this way. Guys, I'm just playing with your imagination. I want you to have very strong imagination. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Watch your steps, please.
Our late period after the 26th dynasty was into the Greek exploration. Where?
Yeah, I wish I brought mine. Do you know what? It's pointless. I can't even.
Just moving the wall here.
Watch your steps, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on over there?
15. Okay, our bus will leave at 12:15. We haven't finished together yet. I'm just trying to remind you what time we are going to meet, just in case. And the only way to get back to the bus is the same passage.
Okay.
Now you know the geography, and also you know the fight.
Okay, so let's go pyramid.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Not done
we
yet.
are going
I might. You want to look around
to the bus at 12:15. So 12:15 exactly the bus will leave. Okay?
Is this free time now?
No, not free time now. We're
Okay.
going together still.
Okay.
I will give you free time as well. If you can walk, ladies and gentlemen, if you can walk this distance to the side of the step pyramid and then even behind, join me. If you can't, you can wait on the wood benches over there for us, or even go and wait in the bus. And our bus is number 10. Thank you.
I lost it. Oh my God.
We have no money to give them anyways.
Oh, we're walking across the sand? Okay. Oh, let's see.
So we're gonna walk across the stone.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Where's our guy? Oh well, it's okay.
Can bug one of the guys come up with this.
Okay, stop asking me questions. It doesn't matter. I already told you I have no money. I mean, fine.
Cola, Pepsi, Sprite, Whips, water, cola. Drink water, cola, Sprite.
So how'd you become an Egyptologist?
By study, research, and working, practicing, going, visiting, staying, and reading.
Is it a university degree?
You have to.
Okay.
You have to initially get a university degree of the same specialization.
Right.
And later on, this degree won't be enough because it's a very long history. It's a lot of things found, and you have to study them and dedicate yourself hard.
Yeah.
Why me? So you can spend all your life in just one little specialization.
Oh, for sure.
And you will never master it.
Well, like you said, there's three kingdoms, and then within each kingdom, so much you could do.
30 dynasties.
Yeah.
And you're talking about architecture found, belonging to each one. And you're talking about texts found, and you're talking about art, and you're talking about religion, and you're talking about politics, you're talking about jars, and you're talking about pottery.
Yeah, everyday life.
Yeah. And you keep discovering more things,
Right.
which makes you updated all the time. And sometimes new theories are undermined by new theories, but still
Right,
new
right.
theories, not facts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of those blocks are in really good shape. Wow.
See the expansion happening?
Yep. Right there. I see
Many
it.
times. One,
2.
and
Yeah.
twice.
Exactly. Do you guys see that? The lines?
Yeah.
How many times they got extended?
Twice, at least. and gentlemen, walking this way on the right, we found two stone structures. One close, one further. The two are in the form of two rooms. We don't know the function of, but since everything here is made of two items, or what we call the duality of the ancient Egyptian architecture, we started to believe that each one of the rooms was symbolic, the administrative house for running one of the two countries of Egypt at the time of the unity. One for Upper Egypt and one for Lower Egypt. And this is why they call that the House of the South, and they call the other one the House of the North. Walking through, maybe on the way back of this court, you will see the remains of stone medicines and even feet, sometimes legs of his statues, reading the puzzle, putting all finds together. We discovered there a celebration happened. What was the celebration about? The king, remember, used to come here, exercise his power to prove he is still young and fit to rule the country for more and more years to come. At one point, the king was too old to come and exercise his power. This is why the corrupt Egyptian priests offered the king to make him two statues, one in the form of an old man declining, and the other one is in the form of a young, powerful one. They took the statue, the king presented all on the shoulder of the priests and then toppled it. This he has died, or this is his image. But then he took the other virgin for him and they placed it on the shoulders and they walked around chanting, "Long live the king." Again, today is very similar to what happened thousands of years ago. And the ancient Egyptians are always described as a government, at the best manipulators to their public. Believe it or not, we started and everybody else followed this kind of corruption.
It worked.
Still working. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look at the stepped pyramid from this side, which is the eastern section, you will discover that the stone layers are not all even or on one level. The stone layers of the stepped pyramid incline from the sides to the core, from outside to the inside. When we investigated why, we discovered the core of the stepped pyramid and all the other pyramids are filled with piles of sand. The sand act as cushions in case an earthquake happened. This is why they lean all the weight of the stone towards the core filled with the sand compartments. Guys, look at how the stones incline towards the core.
Oh, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember while talking about mummification,
we mentioned that the ancient Egyptians made a copy of the king in the form of a statue and put that within the tomb to guide the soul back to the body in case mummification didn't work, right? We call this statue the Ka statue. What is the meaning of Ka statue? The double statue. It's like a double for the king. And by the way, in this little compartment, in this coat, we found the body of the king.
That's really cool.
Which is 4,700 years old. It gave us an impression or an idea how big the physical body of the king was and how the king looked like. It was put here and then they made 2 holes to enable the statue of the double representing the life version of the king in here. The life version of the king to look at the sky, enjoy the smell of burning incense and the offerings, and even be a joint between the sky or heaven and the earth, or between death and life again. What you see inside is a copy. The original one is now in the Egyptian Museum. Did you see it before?
So how did they know that one was the north and how
They presumed it is, but there is no real proof of this one. Depending on the direction. This is the northern direction, this is the south direction. They didn't know the function of, but they knew everything here was dual, which is everything in the south and the north, so they presumed that this is the house of the north and this is the house of the south, and they put here in a symbolic way.
Okay.
And the Kubura.
Okay. I was just wondering because you said this one was the north, this one was the south.
That's
so
what
might as
scholars call it.
well- Okay.
90% of what we say is what we call the maybe science. Maybe science means we are not really 100% sure, we just guess, but we don't have the ultimate proof.
Just an educated guess.
But our guesses make logic sense.
Of course, the family was studied among the
And this is why sometimes we call them BBBB. You know what's BBB?
Makes sense.
Yes. So that's the one we figured out. Yes. And it was even a course outside.
No cloud inside. Like you can see the haze from there.
I think the bus is being bus right over here.
Yeah, there's the feet of the statues he was talking about.
Get in prison for a month and 100,000 Egyptian pounds. Climb.
Here, go there.
Water cola spray whips. Water cola. Water cola spray.
The rest disappeared.
Read all the more.
You can stay there. That's okay. You can get them a close as well. Wow.
$1 a pyramid?
Look, the palm tree started over there, isn't that weird?